Did you do you remember the first song? That first song. I'm not talking about first hit, like going back to Naveed or anything like that. I'm talking about when you wrote a song and you're like, I could do this. And man, did I ever just do it well. This is the song. Holy shit, this is great. Like, you know what I mean? What was that? Was there a song in particular that you kind of hit for you and you're like, okay, I'm in all the way now. This is it.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of I just met Chantel, and she was on. We weren't able to be in the same city, but we were definitely friendly, and we were talking to each other one night, and she just had this really interesting way as a female and as just, I think, another artist. We would have these long conversations from like 1 till 4 in the morning, a lot, when we were just first kind of dating, but weren't around each other. And started, she was able to pull stuff out of me that no one ever had. And so we started talking about, my parents were divorced. What's that like? Her parents are together, just relationships with my mom, with my dad. And all of a sudden it spirals into this kind of like cathartic, just discussion on life and what divorce does, and how you can become disconnected from a partner. Anyway, 4 a.m. kind of pops out, and I wrote that song basically right after I hung up the phone with her. I called our engineer. We were making Clumsy, and I called our engineer. I said, hey, do you mind meeting me like a few hours early before everyone comes in at like 1? And I just want to lay something down. So I went in and recorded that song, and the record was pretty close to being done. Clumsy was almost done. And I was there, and everyone kind of walks in and say, hey, what's going on? I said, oh, I had this idea last night. And so I was really, really nervous to play it for anyone. And I think that's the epitome of how does this affect you as like a human? And throughout Naveed, throughout the making of Clumsy, I was always trying to get there, and I was always close, I felt. But I played 4 a.m. for everyone, and they just kind of like, everyone was speechless. And I was like, oh shit, this must really suck. Or pause, everyone took a beat, and then they were just like, wow. And so that kind of like, I don't know, it's courage is way too heavy, but just having the wherewithal to like be that raw, I guess, for me, because I'd never really spoken about anything as personal. That I kind of tend to hide behind lyrics. And I think for me as a songwriter, I actually respect that, in terms of not just giving it up and making it so succinct where someone knows exactly what you're talking about, because it takes some mystery out of it. But this song, it really made me feel like, okay, there's an artistry that I was able to tap into, maybe just for this moment, but definitely elevated the sense of songwriting for me.
That must have been an amazing feeling, because coming off of the success already of Naveed and just the monster of that record. And then as you said, Clumsy's almost done. This is a classic story you always hear. Well, the record was done, or it was almost done. And then we wrote this song, and then next thing you know, it's and there's no denying how huge that song was. So, man, that was a time. And I there were so many bands breaking in Canada at that time. And I wanted to, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, but how many shows did you guys play before it really kicked in, as far as the record deal and everything? Because everyone was around then, right? Like, I mean, I'm of the Earth was playing. I think the Tea Party were around. Moist. All these bands were kind of all breaking, or at the very least,
yeah, we were.
Like you were all giant at the same time.
Yeah, we were definitely a little bit later, just in terms of like getting our record out, and it didn't really click for us right away, because I don't know, we put the first single off of Naveed was a song called The Birdman, and it really wasn't a single. Moist had like real kind of hit songs, and Tea Party had more like radio, and The Birdman wasn't that song for us. So and I think even our label was like, it's, they just saw it as a slow build. And so it was wild, because we were out there busting our butts, but like we were first on every festival. And I'm Mother Earth and Moist and other Sloan, other bands were like, they'd already kind of like cracked that first level. So they were killing it. And we were like, the little guys in our little school bus or van kind of still doing it. But I mean, it was always inspiring, which was cool, because I was big fan of Jag and his guitar playing, and I loved the way that record sounded. And it was just, it just felt like Canada was finally on the map in terms of like having its own scene and having music that was really credible and was speaking to like the youth. So we were fine to like ride the wave, and then slowly, that record just kind of kept going, and then started happening in the States. And I think, in typical fashion, it's like once it started to happen down here, and Starseed started to get on the radio, alternative radio down in the US, it's like, okay, Canada kind of took notice, and that's when the ascent for at least for OLP started.
Was there ever a moment for you though, when you coming through that, where it was like, well, I went to school, I guess I can go do this if this doesn't go? How close were you to maybe not going all the way with it, like stopping?
Yeah, I never even thought of that. I think once we started recording Naveed, the just the kind of kinetic energy of being a band, being in a studio, and then making music and we didn't care about the business. I knew nothing about the business. Like it really, literally, I don't even remember what our record deal with Sony was probably for like 40 grand. You know what I mean? Like it was never about the money. It was never about like posturing. And, I remember I'm on the Earth, because I knew that story. It's like those guys signed a huge deal, like a co-deal with Capitol in the US and whatever label in Canada. And it was like millions of dollars, and they went to LA to record their deal. Like we were stuck in Etobicoke in this, in our producer's studio, which at that point, like it was pretty modest to say the least, like literally eating Taco Bell, Subway, making music, but never thinking anything less of it. And it was that excitement. And so from then, getting on the road and getting it out there, and definitely getting to see cities that I've never seen, and being down in the US in terms of all these states and cities we've never been with, and playing with amazing bands, even though we were the small guys on the totem pole at that point. It was like, you just felt like there's a trajectory here, and we just got to keep working.
Like stopping at the Cambridge McDonald's in between Kitchener and Toronto on that stop home every time the touring stop. That many Big Macs. Oh my God. That's the Canadian gold record run there.
That is, yeah.
Anyways.
Thanks for stopping by, friends, to the Brenton On Tour podcast channel on YouTube. Coffee, music, travel, life, all of those things. One page, lots of guests, lots of chatter. We talk about all of it. If you like it, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Thanks, friends. See you next time.